Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of our Boring Enterprise Nerdletter Talk. As usual, myself, Elena Perfileva, and my co-host and partner in crime, Paul Moderman, we gather here to talk about the subjects for our upcoming newsletter, and we will share with you at least, at minimum, three stories each. So that's our promise to you. And next week, hopefully, you will read about this subject in the next newsletter.
And if
So
you if you don't read about it next week, like why are you watching this video,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or maybe this is a good digest, and you don't need to read the thing next week. So I don't know.
awesome. So all right. So Paul, I think you said you're ready to go.
I
So
yeah,
do
I've got
you
my
want
stuff. I've
do
got
you
stuff
want to
pulled up.
start?
Okay, so the things I'm thinking about these days is this one is a little bit less maybe ERP specific, but there's some ERP-ness in this. And so what I want to say that is this guy Ethan Mollick. I
Hmm.
follow him on the various socials that he's on, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think he does on Blue Sky too, but I haven't
Yeah,
seen him
yeah,
does
he
much there.
is.
Okay, I love the way he writes and thinks about, especially about AI stuff. But this post here is like about sort of the socials in general and the way that he has found the socials kind of moving lately, given that AI is, doing its thing, big or not big, whatever the case may be. I, like, I'm really keying on this bit right here. I see private discords and chats taking over,
Yeah,
but the public facing discussion forums are not really viable, at least in the format in which they used to operate. So I guess, and used to is still kinds of means right now, right?
yeah,
Because if you
mm,
if you go out there and you read the popular posts or you see the popular posts or even some of the less popular posts, like there's gonna be LLM gunk on there.
mm-hmm.
And that is like it's growing. And like even if the AIs are getting better at certain things, they're not getting better at being interesting in their social
Yeah,
posts. That's for darn
yeah,
sure. Right?
yeah,
So like I'm sure if I don't even want to, but if I'm sure if I scrolled through this guy's like comments on this post, I guarantee there's AI gunk
yeah,
in this guy's
yeah,
post about AI wrecking the way that we've done this. But the direction that I follow in my head when I think about this post and this stuff is like Yelena, some of the stuff that you and I have talked about in like our own desire for like more authentic, more real, more personable, even if it's still remote, it's still personable
mm,
kinds of interactions in the like professional communities that we work in, right?
yeah,
Like because like if LLMs and AI weren't um growing in their problemness in wrecking this stuff,
mm-hmm.
maybe I wouldn't be thinking about this quite as much, although I'd still want that stuff. But especially given I think Ethan is right, is that there's like erosion of this stuff.
Mm,
I want to find and or create the better ways to have the the professional discussions that we should be having when we
yeah,
do this stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I'm probably just going to complain about it. I don't know if I have the solution except for some of the things that you and I have talked about.
yeah,
But I just see it like if I'm going to spend so much of my freaking life at work, right? Until the day where I can just like go golf all day and then come home and drink a beer and go to bed. Like until that day, if I have to spend so much of my freaking time working, I at least want to get like a human meaning process out of how do I grow in that.
yeah,
And the socials are no longer doing what they used to do for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it, I mean, we have been talking about the demise of SAP community and
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah.
etc. And it's interesting that even Ethan, who is, by the way, really good person to follow, I follow him as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Really good and truly insightful post. I think LinkedIn really solid that word insightful because it's became automated response.
Yeah.
But Ethan, one of those few people who truly still is. And I think I might have mentioned this many times in our conversation. The Expanse series, there is a really great episode when one character talks about how in bad times our tribes shrink. So we kind of hunker down and we only kind of communicate and go out and
Mm,
socialize with our small communities.
hmm.
But in good times, they expand. And I'm kind of thinking, and it's funny that Ethan also mentions BBS. So I came from that older generation of people who started
Yeah.
on BBS and boards, etc., and then gradually expanded to bigger platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn. But I do feel that we kind of seeing again, and I don't want to be like doom and gloom, but I think it's just a reality that these platforms they were good for a while, but what happened they just got um I don't know they yeah and
I
shitification
was I literally
happened
when you started
happened
to, I was
here.
thinking of that word when you said that.
as,
Yeah.
as well. So and that's just reality. It happens. So it's they're like living organism, probably just like
Yeah.
any software. So it's time for them maybe to go or take a different direction, and for some other things to emerge, or for people
Yeah.
to kind of go back into their bunkers of smaller chats and go back to BBS. I
Yeah.
don't know, or whatever is equivalent. But yeah, so specifically for SAP community, I'm really not seeing anything, and maybe it's just the issue of me not seeing, not the issue of these things
Yeah.
not existing. I don't really see anything emerging right now that would replace in some way the social media that's been kind of going down. So
Yeah.
if anyone if anyone like knows of any secret place where normal like regular knowledgeable SAP people go to communicate and kind of hang out and socialize, I really would love to know. So yeah, if you have any clues or any hints for us, please drop a comment.
Let
So
us in the club, guys.
yeah,
We'd
or
love
like
I'd love to join.
like private message us or something. Yes, yes. Thank you, Paul, for finding this.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing is I've been on this agent like kick for
No,
a
not
couple issues.
again.
Yeah, I'm sorry guys, it's happening again. I stay on the trail and there we go. But so Salesforce is in this agent realm, has felt like the most like pugilistic agent people because their CEO, Mark Benioff, he just goes out and he craps on other people's agent stuff, right? And so I just saw in the last this is like last week, there's like now they're adding more things to Agent Force. But again, just like the other places, like I like show me what this really is, right? What are you doing now that's different than before? Or are you just like scooping more stuff into a thing that we haven't still been able to like figure out if it's really actually good or not,
Mm,
right? So there's 2DX is whatever this thing is, 2DX now is breaking back again into like the low code and pro code world, like or especially low code is the thing I think was like low code was hot, and then I don't know if it's gotten less hot. It might have gotten less hot lately. I'm not sure, but now low code is kind of like with this, maybe it's coming back again. I don't know,
mm,
but there's that. There's just like SAP's business data cloud. There's also Salesforce's data cloud, which is completely normal and super easy to understand all the vendors offering in this space
yeah,
because they're very differentiated, right? If you have a Salesforce data cloud and you have a business data cloud, like come on, there's how could you have two different things,
yeah.
two more different things, right?
Two
So
clouds.
like sometimes I'm just like if you say data cloud, like what is even the difference
Yeah,
from anything? Like
yeah.
that's what the cloud is like. What else do you put there? That's it's computers. They have
Goblins.
data. Yeah.
dragons and unicorns.
If I can subscribe to Dragon Cloud, I want that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 totally. So if anyone
Give
is
me
working on it, let us know.
let me do my monthly like 1950 for like a ride on Drogon or whatever, and like that'd be great, you know? Do you hear me, George R. R. Martin? Let's do some Dragon Cloud.
Let's do some collab, bro.
The other thing is there's agent exchange. So now there's going to be a marketplace for agents. Like
Jesus.
that's gonna I mean
LinkedIn
like
for agentic AI LinkedIn. Open
that's
for work.
yeah, I know. Like
Terminator
that's
number
the
351.
like I don't like I
Dear Lord.
see why if you if you are bought into agent world, I see why a thing like agent exchange makes sense. But my God, can you imagine the slop that's going to be out there on agent exchange? Like I want nothing more than to go try somehow for free, which that's not going to happen. But like, I want to try the worst ones and see how bad they are because I bet there would be some hilariously bad agents on an agent exchange kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Some nerd out there is going to think that their agent solves whatever, and they're going to introduce an agent that just like wrecks everything you ever wanted to do with that thing. So anyway, the story here is um, I'm not sure because I don't know whether I'm going to write about this again because
Mm.
I'm sure all nine of our readers are really sick of me talking about agents all the time. So maybe it won't be agents again, but it's like if I'm in a rabbit hole, I might as well like sniff around, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. The other one is I don't know if people have heard of this. There's a thing out there called vibe coding.
I have heard it. It
You've heard of this
seems so
probably, right?
stupid. Yeah.
It's well, so like it's such a it's such an utterly different universe than the enterprise app dev universe. So I'll say this, like I I did something for somebody a week or two ago and like I knew exactly what they needed. I had no constraints on basically anything. They just needed a utility to do a certain thing a little bit better than they were doing before. I had no constraints on what tools to use. I just needed to give them a Python thing that did the thing.
Mm.
And it was small and easy, and it required no collaboration. In that case, one prompt with Claude thinking mode, and I had the thing for them.
Mm.
And I just put it in a Python file, packaged it up for them, shipped it over to them, and they did their thing and it worked. All I had to do was like they had to put their API key in to do the thing, right? I didn't want to
Mm.
like ship an API key in a file to them, right? But other than that, that worked. But as I was doing that, as I was like I was like constructing my prompt and giving it some like examples and things that I wanted it to do or whatever. And I hit go and it took a minute or two to come back and I was like, okay, it looks good. And I ran it and it worked. I immediately thought to myself, this is so utterly not yet ready for what we do enterprise wise, right?
Mm.
Like, because this was, I mean, it was for somebody who works in an enterprise, but it was not an enterprise application. It was like just a little thing to do a tweaky little thing for them real quick.
Mm.
And I think, like, if they had just known what to ask for a little bit better, they probably could have done it themselves. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's a different thing. And so the what I think about this now is that like if there is a next step, and I think there probably will be or is, but it's not around yet. One of the next steps in getting something like this to go like enterprise wise would be like something like something like the AI sort of in the room with you, so to speak,
Yeah.
listening to multiple people talk through all of the various ins and outs of stuff. Because one of the key challenges I see in like getting over the line enterprise wise is that it's never the case that one person knows the whole story of the
Mm.
thing, right? So like So like if I think back to some of the write-ups I did or some of the other developments I've done in SAP world, even with like the world's most perfect, brilliant Einstein I could not have told it all the stuff
Mm,
because the knowledge was not all in my head. It was in the head of like some business analyst
yeah,
and some person who knew about the
yeah,
integration, some person who knew about the whatever. We would have all had to sit in a room and like all of us like sit around a campfire and tell the AI the story of the thing that we needed to do, which was the part of the whole thing that needed to happen, right?
yeah,
So at least one of the climb ups that needs to happen here is like me and you and some, business guru who knows all the stuff the business wise and some other two or three other gurus. Like if we could sit in the room and like smoke a joint with the AI and tell it all the things we need to know, like that would be the next step. But it just doesn't work that way right now. We can't all sit there and do
yeah,
that same thing against the same idea right now.
yeah,
So there's places to go. This is so incredible when you have a thing that only you need and you know that you can do whatever you want and it doesn't matter for other people. In that case, the vibe coding works. Like you
yeah,
give it a prompt and you do whatever, and if it doesn't work right, just re-roll. Just do it again.
yeah,
But like the gap between that and what you and I do for the customers that we work with is pretty big still.
yeah.
Very big. Very
And
big.
yeah, and I keep seeing this post. So first of all, coding and software development, they are two different things. I think that's a part that many people are missing when they're talking about use of AI in software development in general. Because to be honest, if we even just remove like specific tools from this post, he's describing software development process because coding is only part of it. You have to do a
Yeah.
lot of thinking, a lot of interpretation and
Yeah.
building the algorithm before you write actual code. And what the tools do really well, they do this coding part. But it's honestly depending on the situation. Sometimes it's bigger part, sometimes it's smaller. I had an example recently when I spent literally 2 days, I think, just kind of thinking through what would be the most efficient way to deliver whatever was needed from this piece
Mm,
I was working on.
hmm
And
hmm
then what it resulted in was literally one big select statement. So if someone looks at it, they're like, "Why the heck you spend like 2 days working on this? Yeah, yeah, I could do
Oh
this
my
things in like
gosh.
5 minutes."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I have
but
so many of those and I can think
yeah,
about right now. Same
yeah,
story. Yep.
but what you see is not is not the whole like this not the whole picture. Like 90% of the effort was left outside,
hmm
and to get to this small piece, that's where the real value is. Because otherwise, if I didn't spend this time, it wouldn't be one select statement. It wouldn't be huge, ugly program for the exact reason because no one thought how to squish it down to one select statement. So that's I think the huge I think just disconnection that I'm seeing between and Andre knows more than other people, I'm sure, but I do see people who really are very much removed from software development just blabbing about this and they're just missing the point completely because some just the other day I replied to some guy on LinkedIn, some kind of CEO of something. There's too many of those on LinkedIn these days. Some kind of startup guy. He's like, why? Well, the whole bunch of vibe coders could just get together and they could just create like free versions of software like Figma or like Canva or whatever other known software that is not free right now. You could do this like with AI and just give it away for free. And to me, it sounded pretty much like that Jin Yang from Silicon Valley, where he had like Chinese
New
Chinese
Pied
Pied
Piper, new
Piper, yeah,
Facebook.
new
Yeah.
Pied Piper, and like new Facebook, new Reddit or whatever. It's it's honestly it's just such a dumb idea because the value is not in like coding, not in the code base. The value is in the ideas that come before that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really yeah
The
missing the
it
point
like
there.
I think one of the key things here is like for whatever you might define vibe coding as,
Mm,
um, like the quality of the thinking that the human does is the fuel for that engine,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's an engine there. The engine is powerful,
yeah,
but right now you the human have to provide the gas to it.
yeah,
Like that's the only way vibe coding, even
yeah,
in its small form now, could be a thing. And there are some steps to climb before
yeah,
it's like,
yeah. I think yeah, it's a great analogy.
yep. Okay,
Awesome. Whew.
that's my
All right.
stuff. One of them might change. I might not do the agent stuff because people might be sick of it. But there's my stuff.
No, can never talk too little about agents these days. It's just all the rage. All right, so let me share my stuff. All right, so my stories are a little bit lazy this week because in for most cases I have already actually posted something about it or I talked about it elsewhere. But I do think that not everyone who reads our newsletter probably follows every single of my posts elsewhere. So there is probably some value repeating some good information. So
Mm,
first one, this is where this kind of started. It's an interesting question. So I'm going back to back to the 90s here. So after Paul talked about AI and agents, we're like whoosh, like going back in time to the beginnings
whoa.
of SAP systems. So there is a thing. If you seeing this TVRVCN, like oh my god, like then yeah, I feel yeah. It's a thing in SAP where it's something like the settings of the system or of the application. So any other applications that are not part of SAP, anything like your browser, anything, it has some settings where you can set some stuff like I want to do this differently and I want to have this notification, but not that. So you have the power to customize using those settings. SAP kind of did not have this for a while at all.
Mm,
So this is a table name. There is a transaction where you can maintain this
yeah.
table. This is what developers started to use, but then it turned into abuse really quickly. The purpose of this table and transaction was to maintain parameters for the programs, which would be executed mostly like batch jobs, so running at night on server somewhere, and you wanted some flexibility into their parameters, which you could not control because they were running at night on the server and not on your PC. So that's
Hmm.
where they
Hmm.
started. But then people like, oh, hold on, like I have a transaction where I can put some value and I can store it and then I can use it in my program. So that's where, people had some light bulb moment. They started using this table and transaction to do essentially like settings to replace hard coding, to give users some access to influence some conditions or business logic, etc. There were also implementations of similar thing, but using custom tables, custom transaction. And I bet every single customer, SAP customer, has it in their system. If you think you don't, you just don't know.
Yeah.
Then at some point, I don't remember when exactly, but SAP created what is now called BRF Plus. And the BRF Plus is actually, if you go to the backend implementation of it, it's really a good idea. I
Yeah.
really liked it when I read about it, and I think it would solve a lot of problems.
Yep.
It's really powerful, but unfortunately, what SAP did, they also put WebDyn Pro frontend to maintain the actual business rules, and that is basically killed the adoption, I think, because in every single system where I worked before, and whenever I tried to do, oh, maybe let's use BRF Plus, the problem wasn't like developers not knowing, even though many don't really know. They know it exists, but
Yeah.
they don't know what it does, how it works.
Yeah.
The problem really was just plain access to the transaction. If you just go in your system, you type like BRF Plus, that's actual transaction code. Many times it just throws an error message because it tries to go to WebDyn Pro and nobody uses WebDintro for anything else.
Man,
It was already obsolete as soon as it was implemented. It's been outdated, but still SAP was like, yeah, like let's like double down on this and let's
yeah,
put this front end. So that kind of killed really good idea. And now there is Fiori app for it, but that's again a problem that people want. Okay, Fiori app is fine for Fiori centric companies. In ECC, Fiori is not really the thing, even though it's possible, but it's just people just don't really use it. So if you don't have it in SAP GUI, that's kind of a no-go right away. So that's kind of what is the problem with BRF Plus adoption, which would have been killer of this idea and all the other ideas, etc. So, but it's really funny that this guy's like, oh, like he's even talking about why should I use you? You shouldn't. The simple answer, you shouldn't. There are no pros and cons. Forget about it. Stop using this. Stop. If you have anything, you need to start thinking about getting rid of use of this table in general. So yeah, kind of thinking about different options through times in SAP. There is even newer option for BTP, etc. So that is kind of vague subject of my first story.
yeah. I so this is good, and thank you, Frederick, for the post on
Yeah,
this. Um, you know, like my only critique of this is like, uh, it takes me like three paragraphs. Paragraphs is a relative term here, right?
yeah,
To get to his recommendation of not doing that.
yeah,
Like, I think you should just start with don't use TVRC, here's why,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny because why should I looked at it like why why should you shouldn't, and then he essentially arrives at the same conclusion.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't know, but
And
then asking for thought, what
the
to
other
do?
one is I guess okay, so I did have two thoughts while you were describing this. The other one was like total shout out to BRF Plus.
Yeah,
Like I remember when I first encountered that, I was like I was junior RICEF guy, like cranking out RICEFs, and somebody gave me this functional spec, and like just the way it was laid out, I got to like the spreadsheet full of like
yeah,
here for this and this do this, for this and this do
yeah,
this. And in my head, before I saw the section, so I saw the spreadsheet and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna make me code like 400 things into this program?" And then the next like section of the spec was like, "And so put this in BRF Plus," and then blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh, thank God, there's
yeah,
a thing that does the thing."
exactly. And it's funny because I've seen people almost attempt like their own BRF plus, like with
Yeah,
blackjack and hookers, which is even worse. So I think if only we could have like simple solution to BRF plus front end issues, I think it would just take off and would have great adoption. And
there's
yeah,
probably a lot of stuff in like just sort of on the ABAP stack where
mm,
like if you're a new developer who maybe has some programming experience but you weren't in the ABAP world, you probably have like eight ideas that you're like, oh, we could really use a blah, and
yeah,
that thing is actually there. You just didn't know it,
yeah,
right? I bet you that's like
yeah,
there's like a life cycle of the growth of an ABAP developer in that sense of like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that thing you wanted, it's there. It just has a weird
Yeah.
name. You didn't know where to look.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah.
don't know. All right. So second subject, I think this would be interesting. And again, so Paul talks about AI agents, which is cutting edge of this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more like take you back a little bit to like to more grounded place. So this was actually an interesting post on Reddit, and I did have full answer here, but I think it's an interesting subject that is worth maybe further exploration and maybe even turn it into additional posts later on. So um, important detail, the person asking this, they're a business user. So they are not a SAP consultant wondering
Mm,
like
mm,
what is the ways to automate something in SAP.
yeah.
They're a business user. They have some stuff. He probably does some things every day, multiple times, and he's just sitting there thinking like, why am I doing this? We have AI and crap. Why can't like AI or something, anything do this for me easier? And it's a great question. And I do think, honestly, if there are any just users of SAP watching this by chance, then guys, you need to talk about this within your organization.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there and expect IT solve this for you, because sometimes they might not even know
They
this
don't
is a
know.
problem for
You're
you.
totally right. They don't
So
know.
you need to share this and say, like, hey, here is actual real use case for something. We need to automate this. And you don't need to assume something. You don't even need to suggest. You just need to say, we have a need, and explain your need. So this would be, I think, greatly valuable to people who deal with technology, who can really help you. So so when I saw that he was a business user, I thought that there are actually different tools that can help on different levels, because there are tools like scripting which are kind of considered a little bit shady in SAP world for
Yeah.
variety of reasons that specific user can use. So he or she can create a script or something just for themselves. It will solve the problem just for this person. It
Yeah.
will be maintained by this person. So this is kind of on them to help themselves. So there are a couple of tools for that. Then going further down, because people immediately like, okay, SAP scripting, yeah, isn't the best, but that's what is available.
Yeah.
ABAP, yeah, you can do custom ABAP, and this would solve the problem for many people, which is where the value is. But
Mhm.
I mean, you don't necessarily need to do this. I have no idea why people mention LSMW here
That's a
at all,
weird
because
prescription.
it's
Yeah.
not an automation solution like at all. Like, forget about it. I mean,
Yeah.
shouldn't be mentioned here. Then another person like, well, RPA. Well, to this business user, it doesn't help because they cannot implement like RPA by themselves. They could talk about this again within their company, like, hey guys, how about to implement something? But it's not going to help them. So there are like immediate solutions that would scale up, that would help many people, and like a couple of options that I don't think should be even considered here. So, and yeah, so I will have a link to this post if anyone wants to read my long answer with the links, etc. But I will just summarize this for the story in the newsletter.
Hey, by the way, don't
Yeah,
close this one yet. Scroll up just a
sure.
little bit.
Yep.
Okay, stop. There's on the R on the right hand side with the suggested posts.
Mm-hmm.
There's an Accenture post. I
Oh
don't I
yeah.
don't I don't follow the Accenture subreddit at all.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? But like, look at that. It says, "Is SAP ABAP any good?" I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm gonna have to go search that one out and find what people are saying about
What
that
did they
on the Accenture
on the
sub,
X?
right? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't notice. I usually don't look at this and BRF. Yeah. But I mean, even on SAP sub, there was a similar question like, does ABAP have a future? And these questions come up like every month, and
Every day somebody asks
I
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
didn't even bother answering. So, all right. So third subject. This is again something I posted on LinkedIn about.
Mm,
So this was just one of the videos, and there was LinkedIn post associated with it where um, this person actually, I think they did well by demonstrating what this actually does, how it works. However, they missed to mention that whatever they demonstrated, it does not create Fiori app as they're suggesting. So I think there was somewhat recent announcement from SAP that they released this new functionality where you can um, I don't even remember what it's part of, but essentially you have an opportunity there when you're generate some kind of skeleton of Fiori application
mm,
using what I think they shown before, how you can do this using Joule and whatever, just describe stuff and it generates some kind of cap based
mm,
application skeleton for you. So you can also do this not by just writing words, but you can upload like a drawing, and it will interpret your drawing. Oh, this is like a list and there are fields on it, and it will generate like apps that looks like here in this screen right now. Um, However, all it does, and this person was just, I guess, so enthused about the idea itself that he totally missed to mention that when it generates, it's like, oh, generating mock data. So So none of this is like real application because I scrolled, I kind of fast forwarded to the end. I'm like, I'm confused. Like, how did it know where the data comes from? And it didn't. It has no idea where the data is coming from. It just pulled up, the field names and just generated some mock data for it to show something. So that's it. So this is really just a small part of what real application is and what it would do. And I do think this is probably helpful, although I think that it's kind of maybe a little bit too late. I mean, why would you want to create a drawing and then generate from it? That seems like slavery with extra steps.
Yeah, like
Uh,
that's just like, I mean, especially with enterprise apps and especially with like Fiori elements, like
yeah,
what are you even drawing? Like
yeah,
there's like four choices, right?
yeah,
The other thing is like I want to draw a picture of like a dragon and see what it does. You
Yeah, I'm sure people will try to upload
know?
some wild stuff. And yeah, so essentially this drawing needs to be prepared for it. So
Mm,
you already know what it looks like.
yeah,
You are drawing an example. Why would you do that? I would just give it a list, like generate me Fiori list app with these columns and these filters
yeah,
and be done with it. I think it's just much faster than doing drawings, but it's to me it's like kind of one of those functionalities where it's like technology existed for I think almost 2 years at least already for this. It was part of
mhm,
original SAP build, the
yeah.
not the new build which was renamed, but the old products that
OG
existed
build.
before. You could do that. You could actually upload drawing and it would generate some kind of mock site
Yeah.
for you. So it's not like revolutionary. So it's something like, well, it is there. So let's just throw it in
Yeah.
throw it in as a freebie for the customers, like additional advantage or whatever. So I mean, nice idea, but the point here is it's not a Fiori app. So and guys, if you see this, please don't think it's gonna work for you. Um, it's gonna do part of the app, but that's important important to mention that it's only the part. And
Yeah.
I also have kind of a bonus story. I saw this article and I was kind of scratching my head whether it's worth writing about or not. But I thought it was interesting at least to mention this in our conversation, and I wanted to get some impressions from you, Paul, as well. So Phil Forrest, he has this very funny name, Forces for Sources website. He's a known analyst, not just in SAP, but in enterprise technology in general. I have been kind of semi-following him for a while, and I think most of his content is good, but I did find this particular piece very confusing. So he writes about services as software, and that might be just kind of attempt at developing new buzzword or just being like catchy and bringing more like eyeballs to his website. Because to be honest, when I read through this, I I was like, but where are you really kind of going with this? And again, it seems weird that we find these articles and like I'm so confused and why and what are you saying and why does this matter? And now we're bringing this to you and just bringing confusion to you. But I think the value in discussing this maybe at least in reducing confusion and maybe at just learning to ignore the superficial part and maybe finding or not finding real bits of pieces of information. So I'm just going to scroll very, very briefly through this one. So it starts, I mean, yeah, there is certain political situation going on right now. I'm not going to go into that. So he's talking about there are some changes that will impact companies, and that is totally valid. There is some kind of isolationist policies, but what he says, and he kind of repeats this just through this article several times. It's like you need to rethink your offerings and to deliver this as software versus services delivered by people. And then when he says it, he also kind of further down immediately kind of backpedals from it and mentions, well, it's not like AI is not going to take all the jobs. You will still need people. You still need to train them. But what are you saying though? So like one minute you're and there is like conclusion here at the end of this. Yeah, bottom line, CEOs must prepare for a world where many services delivers for software, not people. So, but what are you saying though? So you're
I
saying
guess,
like
yeah,
you don't need people, but then you need people, and if you so I'm kind of I'm trying to understand this kind of C-suite even like way of thinking like if there are any CIOs listening, like what are you guys are even thinking about? Because okay, neat idea, don't need people, everything will be software. So few thoughts on this immediately. If you lay off all your people, who is going to buy your software? People are not going to have jobs, nobody's going to have any money. Who are going to be your buyers? Because there seems to be like this idea like you reduce costs by laying off everyone, but then what do you think is going to happen when everyone does it? It's unless we have
yeah,
some kind of basic universal income, there will be no one left to consume your software anymore. It's like you're just cannibalizing everything that you do, your whole your whole market. Nobody's
yeah.
going to have money to
I
do
guess
anything to yeah.
so. First of all, I totally agree
Yeah.
on that too. I'd much rather be able to buy a thing than just like have everything be automated that I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
buy, right? Um, I probably need to read this in more depth because where I'm stuck a little bit is like the model of services as software, whatever that means.
Mm.
Like in my head, at a high level, I'm like, isn't that just software
Yeah.
then?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was like it's just software. I mean, software does every single software provides a service to
Software,
someone. So
that's
yeah,
the point
yeah,
of software.
exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe I didn't understand. I need to, because I've heard people use this term once or twice
Mm.
before in the last couple of years, but I still didn't and it was a slightly different context than this. But I think they were maybe going toward the same thing. I'm not sure. But like hearing you talk through this and then reading what I can as you scroll through, like I can't quite put together my own. I need to read the piece
Yeah.
itself more closely. I can't describe the difference between what they're saying here and just what software
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So anyway, but this is wow. This is a good one because it's getting us both thinking like and scratching our heads. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And again, when I read this, I'm like, because it kind of goes back and forth. It kind of dances around this fact, I think, that I just pointed out, that you
yeah,
cannot get rid of people completely because there
yeah,
will be just no one will be left to consume your awesome software anymore.
yeah,
And another point, I think, and again, we talked about this before, people forget that create software, deliver software is just one piece. Software has maintenance cycle. So to
yeah,
maintain the software, update, etc., that takes an effort. And this is where, unfortunately, I think lately C-suite is also thinking more like in terms of upcoming quarter results and not really in terms of long-term um, and business
for sure.
viability. That
Yeah.
kind of mumbling here, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
kind of a
I
problem.
like you're
Yeah,
but you're mumbling inside the vibe of like
yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah, like
I'm
I get it.
yeah.
It's like saying etc. when we both get what we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't have like a speech prepared on this, so I'm kind of thinking out loud at this point. So
Blood
maybe
alone
so
moves the
there yeah
wheels of history. Yeah.
so many dots kind of did not connect for me
Yeah.
here. So yeah, so feel I think maybe explain a little bit more then. All right, so that's also all for me. So awesome conversation, and
Yeah.
I hope you guys subscribe to our newsletter and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so that you can get to partake in our exciting bi-weekly conversations. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye guys.